Welcome to Let's Write This Movie, where we write a screenplay
while sharing the process with the internet.
I am your screenwriter, René Garcia.
And I'm your collaborator, Brian Glass.
Now, let's write this movie. And we're rolling. Brian, how are you?
Renee, I'm pretty great, man. I received a gift a couple of days ago in my email.
Is it from me? Oh, okay, good.
It is. It is, man. This is a momentous day. And
happy day. Welcome, everyone.
I know you like to do your usual banter, but I think we need to really put all eyes on you on this one, because this is a big one. And I mean, you had a lot to tackle in these 10 pages, so
yeah.
Why don't you tell us about it, man? It's I read your blog post, but I want to hear a little bit more about the process of getting to the end of this, and maybe kind of, if you wouldn't mind, tying that into when you finish, maybe tying it into when you have finished scripts in the past as well. How does this stack up, or is it always kind of the same feeling for you? It's a big deal.
So, when I was writing the blog post, I actually kind of sat there a little bit and felt like, I don't know if I was just righted out after having written the screenplay. Yeah. And I was just like, you know what? I don't have the mental juice to write anything, anything like poetic or powerful or meaningful. I'm just going to write something mundane.
Yeah.
If I have to write something, which I was already struggling to do. But now that I've slept on it. Wait, I put it up this morning, didn't I? Never mind. Did I put it up this morning? I did. I must have, because I knew I blew it off on Friday. Okay. I did sleep, though. I think that's why I'm all discombobulated. I took a really, a long 2-hour nap today. I think
Good for you.
I think I'm coming down with something, to be honest.
Oh,
Friday, no. I just was not feeling well with a lot of different, physical ailments. And today, any kind of, minimal exertion, I just feel tired immediately. So, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on with me. Maybe it's also my change in diet recently. I cut out all sugar again and carbs. And so maybe it's just my body's like, where's the energy coming from?
Give me something good, Daddy.
Exactly.
Here's some bread.
1-calorie coffee for you, body.
Oh, it feels so much better. Oh, and it's gone.
Exactly. All right. So I was thinking about it. And I think I wanted to write this, but I just didn't have the ability to articulate it. But this does feel different from having finished other scripts. While I still appreciate the milestone achievement, I think because you and I have been working on it consistently, it feels less organic, I guess is the word. I don't know if that's the exact word I'm looking for, but I think it's close. There's a certain level of artificiality to it, or I want to say forced, right? It feels like a project rather than a creative pursuit. And I don't know if that takes away any of the joy, but it feels almost perfunctory, like we were eventually going to get here. Whereas if I were doing this solo and just on my own time, when I felt the creative juices, I think, that it's hard to explain. I can't articulate the differences, but I know there's nuance there. There you go. That's all I can come up with for now.
Interesting. I wonder if when we do the read through, next, of the entire script, if we're going to feel that kind of, these 10 pages weren't quite as good as the previous, or kind of feel that ebb and flow as you kind of drift in and out of creativity. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because I know what you're saying. You were going to give us something,
right?
Whether 5 pages minimum or 10 pages max.
And as a perfect example, the whole flashback sequence with the train with Everett's family getting killed, it was essentially a week that didn't need to exist, right? If you just, as you had pointed out in that episode, if you had just given me 2 weeks to write it, it would have been fine. But instead, we had a week where I just had to essentially throw away those pages, or at least clean them up significantly.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I feel very differently. I was very pleased when I got it because, it's, to me, it's the culmination of like the part one, the big part one. And I feel like this is something you touched on to some extent in your blog, which is like, this doesn't feel like a first draft. You've already put so much effort into crafting it, redoing it. You've gone back a couple times up through, I think, page like 70 or so. You were doing some some rewriting back there. You've done a lot of polishing already. And I feel like it's really good in terms of the actual pages. Now we may need to just drop some things out, obviously, or tighten some things up.
Totally.
But it's not like I don't think there are like mistakes in there necessarily. Like I don't feel like there are any plot holes or problems. I just feel like we just have a little bit of a bloated script, which is kind of what we anticipated.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. My biggest concern at this point is, are there 15 pages of tightening up in the rest of the script?
Yeah.
Or will I have to axe entire scenes or kill off characters, or in the sense of removing them entirely?
Right.
I don't know. And I'm loath to get rid of an entire character and maybe even some pivotal scenes, because a lot of this movie, it's built on the foundation that the previous pages set up. And I can't just remove something from a previous page and not expect to have to rejigger everything that came after it. And I won't know how much of that is going to happen until I actually dig into this.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And I've been thinking about it. It's funny, as I was reading the 10 pages, I was like, we can't really drop this out, because I'll give you a perfect example. We've got this cool scene where Ray gets his throat slit, right?
Yeah.
Next thing you do, he's raising in like a heroic, effort. He's raising up Chief over his head, bashing him against the ceiling, down on the ground. Right. Pressing him. Well, if Ray's gone, there's no one else who can do those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's going to have to change. I'm going to have to substitute.
Chief gets shot.
Or Jimmy is back there instead. I mean, he's not doing much up front. I don't know, man. I mean, it can be done, but is it going to be satisfying?
Right.
I don't know. And, there you go. At the end of the day, we go back to art and commerce together, right? Like we always have to consider that. And this is where I'm starting to feel, even though, no one has optioned this script or anything, and I don't necessarily foresee that happening, but I have to, be responsible, right? And I have to consider that this is potentially a business thing, a business venture.
Sure.
Right. And so I have to step back from it now as a creator and look at it as a businessman and say, you know what? I know emotionally I like this character there.
Yeah.
As a business person, I need to pluck him out or her out and just live with it so that this movie gets cut down so that it's something that isn't going to scare off people.
Totally. I mean, I think one thing is you're a pretty self-critical guy. I don't think you're going to have a problem looking at it through that lens. I mean, I know you're going to, miss certain things. Obviously, something's going to have to go, right? Some things are going to have to go, but I don't really think that's going to be a big deal. I think one thing that'll be helpful is if I can provide some good real notes, because to me, a lot of what I've done is kind of like the weed level notes, if you will. They're helpful, but unless we're really changing story or changing character, that to me is not truly a note. That's not truly something that's going to be hugely impactful. So I think the onus is on me once I get all 100, what do we got? 135? 136 pages.
Oh, sorry, 36. That's right.
Yeah. To really, come at it with some good input,
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be venturing to do that for you next time. It's funny. I was going to wait till after we did the read through to talk to you about this, but something you mentioned about art and commerce together reminded me of something. I would not be surprised if this is picked up and at the end Everett somehow gets pistol whipped, and lives, and Long is not such a bad guy. So you have kind of your two heroes. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
We can't. No, but they like him too much. We can't have this guy do that.
Right. Yeah. Of course. Of course.
And then someone else rises from the dead or whatever.
Yeah.
To hunt them both, the two buddy cops.
It'll be Maggie or whatever. She like claws her way through the debris.
This little tiny hand is Tommy. Wait,
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't put it past Hollywood to do that.
The two white guys get away.
Yeah.
The two white guys are okay. Everett, and whatever Long's name would be changed to.
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry, Hollywood executives, if you're watching this, I apologize, but I didn't write it, so don't hold me accountable.
Well, I expect the movie to be fully tested, right, with test audiences, and if they start saying, "Oh, why did Everett have to die? Why can't they be friends? I thought they were going to be friends." You get enough of those comment cards, and suddenly it's like I get my phone ringing. Hey, yeah. Renee,
we're gonna need another 5 pages.
Yeah.
Just change. Don't let these guys fight.
Right.
They're friends now.
Yeah.
How can you make them more friendly? Oh, and also the Maggie and Tommy need to live too.
Yeah, everyone.
And we can't kill the Native American.
Right.
So if you just get that to us tomorrow, that'd be great. Thanks. And how much is that going to be? You're going to pay me what? Yeah, all right.
Yeah, done.
Type.
Already have that version.
Clickety clack. Well, anyway, man, I'm happy for you. I think this is a great, this is a great milestone for us, at least as a show. If you mentioned that we've been on the air for 6 months now.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like that.
I know. That's why I kept thinking it was November. Hey, we just started in November. Nope.
That's because we're so wonderful.
Ding.
We started doing this, what, in February, was it? Last month, right?
Yeah. I'm a fast writer.
40 pages a week. Oh man. Anyway, good job, dude. I'm looking forward to this discussion. We've got a lot to read through. So I don't know if you had planned banter, but I figured we've got a lot to get through, just page-wise.
Yeah, well, so there you go. So that is something I do want to just ask. We never plan anything on this show, folks.
We'll plan it live.
Exactly.
You hear us plan.
You ever see the movie Glimmer Man, Brian, with Keenan Ivory Wayans?
No.
Oh. Was
that a comedy? He's only in comedies, right?
Well, this is an action movie. I think Jon Voight is the villain. And I think this is kind of like the end of his in front of the camera career, Keenan Ivory Wayans. And he kind of like tried to make this last-ditch effort to transition to an action hero. So he's got a shaved head and all of that. And to be honest, I thought he could actually pull it off just by his proportions because he's like a big guy.
Yeah, right.
And I thought he looked great in I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker, right? One of my favorite movies. Anyway,
love that movie.
There's a line, something about, I'm a Marine. We don't plan, we improvise. And that's like his big line. Anyway, and then at the end, I don't know if you're ever going to see it, Brian. I'll just spoil it for you and everyone watching. Do. It's a really old movie. It's like early 90s.
Spoiler alert.
What? Spoiler alert? Spoiler alert. We need to have a jingle or something. Season 2, we'll have like a soundboard, and I'll just hit these different things. Ding! Spoiler alert. Anyway, at the end, he saves the day, and it's because of this like elaborate plan. And he's like, well, sometimes we plan shit. So there you go. Exactly.
All that as a preamble to
us not planning anything.
Oh, I thought you were going to actually
plan to have something like whip something out.
Yeah. I thought maybe we do this. Oh, okay.
No, Brian.
No,
I'm in the first part of that story. We don't plan anything. Maybe season 2 we'll plan shit.
So one other thing I'd like to say is a precursor to this. I felt like as I was reading through it, it was like, things were just happening, like we're now like full sprint to the end here.
Yeah.
And I felt like your movie watching and your action acumen kind of came through here. You know what I mean? Like it felt like it was really progressing quickly. Like I think I read through this 3 times.
Yeah.
Maybe each time was a little bit faster. So I was like trying to slow myself down to actually write down notes. But, I kind of got caught up in it. You know what I mean? It felt like it was just like pushing me through, go get through it. It's so fun and cool, Okay. So I thought that was interesting. I thought it was a really neat feeling to get through to the end, because I kind of like that, that cool pop at the end of a movie,
Yeah, well, I mean, a good climax does that, right? Especially for an action horror.
Right.
So before we jump in, and maybe we can be cognizant of this as we do the performance, my concern, well, I have 2 concerns, and one I detailed in the blog, which is it feels long as written, but then as I'm thinking about it, it also feels like it wasn't long enough in the descriptions, meaning, maybe I could have dramatized, or rather described some of the killing of the zombies a little more, or like how they're breaking in, rather than just say, oh, they overrun the windows, right? Like, should I have been a little more descriptive in how like they stumble in and fall over each other, and how like some bodies block the window, and so it helps prevent some of the zombies from getting in? I don't know. And I felt like the pressure. So on Final Draft, and this I just discovered when I was writing these last pages, on Final Draft, it has like this little like timeline of pages running across the top. And so so all of the numbers are black, and it also has these little like points of like scene changes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But after 120, it keeps adding pages. After 120, all of the numbers are red. And so as I'm writing, I keep looking up at that, right? And I'm like, oh, I had to like fight that pressure to like not rush the words. And so I wasn't sure if that affected the writing. So there you go. Just a couple things to think about as we perform these pages.
Interesting. Do you want me to comment on that now or after?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I didn't feel like that was lacking.
Okay.
Because for me, hearing more and more about like zombies as an example doesn't give me a whole lot to care about, but all the action descriptors were about our characters, and that I thought was cool, because that's where my head and my heart is, and that's where I'm emotionally attached to the movie. And I felt like those were all right there. I do have one thing I will talk to you about afterwards. I won't talk to you about it now.
All right.
Which is more along the lines of what you're saying, but nothing to do with really the action. I felt like it was, I felt like it was fine. I had no problem with it. Honestly, it felt like it was a good balance. Like in each of the individual scenes. Yeah.
Well, in that case, I can't wait.
Well, you don't have to.
Well, one last thing.
Now you do.
I did wish I had finished writing the pages earlier, and I said this to Brian already, but for the watching audience, I wish I had finished earlier in the evening so that I could step outside and smoke this really stale cigar that I've had since Brian came down. Whenever he came down and we smoked cigars, I still have one more, and it's just like chilling in a drawer. And I'm like, this would be a great thing to smoke and experience. Just kind of like, I always like whenever I do something big, or I experience something that is meaningful to me, I like to just step away from the world and think about it and really soak in, or let the experience soak into every part of my mind and my body and soul, and really, make sure it's not something I forget. And I didn't get that opportunity, so I feel just a little bit unresolved.
Yeah.
But it's fine. There will always be time for that.
Can't lock in the memory yet.
Exactly.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. We have not had a real celebration of this, and that's one of the unfortunate things about living a state away.
Sorry,
So
are you going to come back, Brian? Come to me.
Come back. Soon.
Okay.
Soon, Cali boy.
All right. Okay, let me pull up the pages.
All right.
This is going to be unrehearsed.
Yes, me too. I just read through it. I didn't read it out loud. Doesn't matter, man. For me, it's all easy because there's no Wells Green. So I'm good to go.
I understand. There are a lot of scene changes, though, and they're long. Sally Saloon, back corridor, continuous. Sally Saloon, front room, continue. You know, it's just like forever.
Well, what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? Exactly.
What are you gonna do?
All right, Brian, I'm ready when you are.
All right, so we're doing bottom of 125, right?
Correct.
All right. Here we go. Interior, Sally Saloon, front room, continuous. The group runs in and heads to the back. Chief slows down when his attention is stolen by the liquor behind the bar. Interior, Sally Saloon, back corridor, continuous. The group sees Zeke and Sally struggling to get the heavy doors open. Long and Everett run up.
Long. What's wrong? Zeke. That rotten partner of yours barred the doors from the other side. Everett. Let's just blast our way through. Sally. Those doors are solid oak and a half-foot thick. You ain't got the firepower. Zeke. What we need is a good wood chopping axe.
The group turns to Chief, but he's missing. His axe is on the ground. Ray goes back to grab it. He glimpses Chief behind the bar, slumped on the ground, swigging whiskey. Ray runs back to the doors and swings at it. The axe barely bites.
Long. Fantastic.
Gunshots echo from outside. Long and Everett investigate. Interior, Sally Saloon, front room, continuous. Outside, they see Jimmy and Sarah, the couple from the train, running for their lives towards the bar. Jimmy pauses to fire a couple more rounds behind him. He sees Everett and Long.
Jimmy. They're coming! They're coming!
Jimmy and Sarah run in, breathless. It's quiet for a moment, but the moans of the undead and the various sounds of the infected rise steadily around them. Outside, dark shapes coalesce into a writhing horde. They shuffle toward the bar. Long and Everett jump into action, both knowing exactly what needs to be done. They move furniture around the front windows and door, creating a weak barricade.
Long. Zeke. Sally. We need you out here. Everett. Bring the ammo.
Interior, Sally Saloon, back corridor, continuous. Zeke goes running. Sally grabs the sack of ammunition and fishes out. Let's try again. Sally grabs the sack of ammunition and fishes out of a box of rifle rounds and hands it to Maggie.
Sally. Anything gets past us, you shoot. To Ray. Whatever happens, you don't stop working on those doors.
Ray nods in determination, and Sally runs to the front room.
Tommy. Mama, I'm scared. Maggie. Maggie? Question mark? Maggie. It's gonna be all right. You need to be strong now. Help me reload.
Tommy opens the box of rounds and hands some to Maggie. Sarah comes running back. Sorry, got me laughing about the last thing. Whew. Tommy opens the box of rounds and hands some to Maggie. Sarah comes running to the back, terrified. Interior, Sally Saloon, front room, continuous. The undead press their dead faces against the fragile glass windows. Farther behind, infected move quickly in the dark.
Everett. We have enough... let's try that again. We have to buy enough time to break through those doors. To Sally and Zeke. We're on the same side now.
The undead slap and paw at the windows, door, and walls. There's a steady pounding and scratching all around them. The survivors reflexively step toward the center of the room.
Everett. We can do this. Work together.
The windows and doors creak in protest, one last time, before snapping and shattering. The undead stumble inside.
Long. Send them back to hell!
The group opens fire, dropping the first wave of undead. But as soon as they fall, there's another to replace it. The survivors continue to blast away, finding a rhythm between firing and reloading. Occasionally, infected break through. A headbanger has to be tripped and shot in the back of the head. Yoo-hoos climb walls and attack from odd angles. Spitters are dealt with from behind cover. But it's the relentless waves of undead that begin to overwhelm the group. Interior, Sally Saloon, back corridor, continuous. Whenever undead get past the front room, Maggie expertly kills them, with Tommy handing her rounds dutifully. Interior, Sally Saloon, front room, continuous.
Jimmy. There are too many! Zeke. Keep fighting, you sumbitch!
There's no time to reload, and the group resorts to melee attacks. Their backs are against the bar, and the odds look too much to overcome. Suddenly, Chief stands up behind the bar. He throws down his empty bottle of whiskey in anger. He looks at his festering knuckles and blackening veins and climbs the bar to retrieve his tomahawks. Then, with a war cry, he leaps into the fray of undead. With his blades, Chief is an unstoppable force, and he clears the bar. Drenched in the blood of his enemies, Chief inhales the aroma of the battle, and he turns to Zeke and Sally.
Chief, my debt to you is paid.
Zeke and Sally nod in respect. Chief smiles wryly before hurling himself into the fray outside. Capitalizing on Chief's sacrifice, the survivors rebarricade the entrances.
Everett, someone's got to reload. Jimmy, Sarah, get out here!
Interior Sally Saloon, back corridor, continuous. Sarah is terrified. She can't bring herself to go.
Maggie, get out there. Your man needs you.
Sarah grits her teeth before running out. Interior Sally Saloon, front room, continuous. Sarah sees the carnage and freezes.
Jimmy, honey, you gotta reload the guns. Sarah, what? Why? Sally, because we're too busy saving your rump. Now get behind that bar.
Sarah does so, and everyone's guns immediately land in front of her. She begins to reload. Exterior Sally Saloon, continuous. Chief has built piles of bodies and arms and legs all around him, but eventually he slows down from too many wounds. The undead close in, but stop just short of finishing him off. Instead, they turn their attention on the saloon once more. Chief falls to his knees. His hands shake, and the black veins in his arm now reach all the way to his chest. He disappears behind the horde of undead and infected. Interior Sally Saloon, back corridor, continuous. Tired, Ray's swings are farther apart, and then the axe head breaks through a door. The crack is just wide enough for Ray to slip his hand in and try to dislodge Sam's shotgun from barring the door. Unfortunately, Ray can't budge it.
Ray, I'm almost through. Goes back to chopping. I ain't gonna die here. I ain't gonna die here.
Interior Sally Saloon, front room, continuous. The group has plugged the windows with furniture and barricaded the door. Sarah has most of the guns reloaded.
Long, they're coming.
The group runs for their guns as the windows are overrun. Insert Sarah, POV. Should I say point of view?
POV is fine, Brian.
All right. She frantically reloads, focusing on nothing else. As soon as she pushes one reloaded gun away, an empty one lands in front of her. She yelps whenever snapping teeth and clawing hands cross her vision, but someone always rescues her. Back to scene. With Sarah reloading for them, the group is able to manage the attackers, but Chief's piercing war cry stuns everyone.
Long. Oh, no.
He looks at the door, which is held firm for now. Suddenly, two tomahawk blades splinter the door. Another blow takes it off its hinges, revealing Chief, but he's changed, wild and furious, with black veins crisscrossing his body and face. He charges at Long, who reaches behind himself and grabs a pistol. He whips around, aims at Chief's skull, and pulls the trigger. Click. Empty. Long tosses the gun back and sighs.
Long. Of course.
He fights off Chief with his bare hands, but Chief is relentless. Those with loaded guns shoot at him, but only manage flesh wounds. The group's split attention has allowed more undead to spill inside and into the back corridor. Everett moves to help, but gets tangled up by undead.
Everett. Maggie!
Interior Sally Saloon, back corridor, continuous. Maggie fires at undead, killing the last one, but as it falls, it reveals Chief standing behind it. Maggie extends her palm to Tommy. When she doesn't receive a round, she turns to him. He looks back in fear, showing the empty box to her.
Maggie. Ray!
Ray turns, sweaty. Chief's ghastly sight only frustrates him.
Ray, I ain't gonna die today.
As Chief charges, Ray meets him. Maggie joins him, swinging her rifle like a club, but she's knocked back and dazed. Ray fights valiantly, but is no match for Chief's superior speed. In a killing stroke, Chief slides a blade over Ray's throat.
Tommy. Ray!
Chief snaps his head to Tommy, forgetting Ray entirely. With the last of his strength, Ray picks up Chief and smashes him against the ceiling and then the floor. Then he takes Chief's head and smashes it over and over until Chief is still. Ray mumbles something, then collapses and dies. Tommy is about to run to him when Maggie holds him back. She approaches Ray and winces as she touches his shoulder. Then she picks up his axe and continues working on the doors. Interior, Sally's saloon, front room, continuous. The fight is turning against the group as the undead seem endless. Long takes a freshly reloaded pistol and aims at the undead at the door, but he stops when he sees Bao. He's alive and well. Long can't believe his eyes. Bao slowly approaches. Stunned, Long lowers his gun as Bao reaches out. Suddenly, Bao is clubbed in the face by Sally, wielding a table leg.
Sally, that ain't your brother anymore.
Long looks again, but Bao is indeed undead. Sally pushes Bao back, but Bao manages to grab Sally's arm, pulling Sally into the undead fray. She cries out as she's pulled into the mob outside. Long fires into the crowd, but it's not enough.
Zeke. Sally!
Exterior, Sally's saloon, continuous. Heroically, Zeke clambers over undead to get to Sally, who is fighting off Bao as she's bitten and clawed by other undead. Zeke pulls Bao off her, revealing the dynamite still tucked in Bao's belt. Sally grabs it and holds it up. She locks eyes with Zeke, who nods back grimly. Together, they press their bodies against Bao, locking him in between them. Interior, Sally's saloon, front room, continuous. Long can't see his friends in the writhing mass, and undead enter the saloon unchallenged without enough defenders.
Zeke, shouting. Long! Dynamite!
Sorry, neighbors. Long sees Sally's hands shoot up from the crowd, holding dynamite. Zeke's hand rises to wrap around Sally's. The horde parts just enough to reveal Zeke and Sally's pained faces as they're eaten alive. Bao locks eyes with Long. Everett sees Long raise his pistol and realize what's about to happen. He grabs Jimmy and throws him over the bar top before jumping behind it himself and throwing Sarah down. Long fires a single bullet and explodes the dynamite. The blast sends Long flying behind the bar. Exterior, Sally's saloon, simultaneous. The blast lays waste to the undead horde in the area. Exterior, Desert Ridge, simultaneous. The blast lights up the night, startling Jebediah and Jones. Interior, Sally's saloon, front room, continuous. The survivors rise from behind the bar. The entire front wall is missing. A defense is impossible now. The town fire is close, outlining undead against the backdrop of the blaze. Everett helps Long stand as the group moves to the back. Exterior, Sally's saloon, back corridor, continuous. The saloon has caught on fire, and flames lick inside. Maggie shields Tommy with her body, but she's also made progress on Ray's work. A few more hits should do it. Suddenly, flaming debris from the door falls and breaks through the doors. Sarah, still terrified, almost cheers, but Long silences her. He motions for Jimmy and Sarah to go through the doors. They drop through together. Long follows, then Everett. Interior, secret passageway, continuous. Sarah peers down the passage and sees light. Panicked, she runs toward it.
Jimmy. Sarah, wait! Runs after her.
Exterior, desert outskirts, continuous. Lying at the entrance of the passage is Sam. He's dead, but still clutches his silver oar. Sarah runs by, avoiding him. Jimmy runs to Sarah, but his ankle snags on something. Sam has risen as undead and is holding Jimmy's leg. Interior, secret passageway, continuous. Everett turns to receive Tommy when he sees Ray, risen as undead, standing behind Maggie.
Everett. Look out!
Too late. Ray grabs Maggie, who drops Tommy. Everett and Long are about to climb back up when they hear Sarah scream.
Everett. Go help them. I've got this.
Long runs off. Everett is about to climb up when more debris falls and blocks him from getting to Maggie. Exterior, desert outskirts, continuous. Sam has Jimmy pressed against a wall, and Sarah can't seem to pull Sam off. Long runs up and pushes Sam to the ground. Then he takes Sam's silver oar and smashes Sam's face with it until there's nothing left to smash. Sorry. Interior, Sally's saloon, back corridor, continuous. Maggie manages to fight off Ray, pushing him to the front room. She notices that the undead horde is reassembled, and she rushes back to Everett in a panic.
Maggie. They're here. Take Tommy. Take him.
She picks up Tommy and tries to feed him through the debris. Everett stretches but can't quite reach him. Everett's eyes widen as undead and infected spill into the corridor. His fingers touch Tommy's just as the undead reach Maggie. Maggie's desperate eyes lock with Everett's. He cries out helplessly as Maggie and Tommy are snatched away. More flaming debris fall on the doors, knocking Everett back. Exterior desert outskirts, continuous. Long hands bows horse to Jimmy. He and Sarah get on.
Long. The Marshal and his family will take the cart. You get as far away from here as fast as you can. Avoid everyone you see, especially soldiers. If you get stopped, you tell them you were on your way to Bisbee and you are ambushed by Indians. Now go. Oh, I'm sorry. It's still me, Jimmy. Thank you, mister. We won't forget what you done for us.
They're about to ride off when Long stops them. He fishes for something in his breast pocket and offers it to Sarah. It's her wedding ring. Without a word and with tears in her eyes, she takes it. Jimmy nods thankfully at Long, then rides off. Long moves to the other horse and leads it away from the hitching post as Everett shuffles out of the passageway.
Long. Where's Maggie and...
Everett stares into the distance, shaking his head slightly. The two men stand in silence for a few moments. A stiff breeze carries embers from Epitaph past. In the distance, the town creaks and roars from the blaze that lights the sky.
Long. We can't stay here, Marshal. The sun is rising, and the soldiers will find us. We need to go.
Long is about to mount his horse.
Everett. I haven't forgotten. Long. I wish you would. We've both lost our families. That's enough justice for one lifetime. Let's just live what's left of our lives.
He turns to mount his horse when he hears a gun cock.
Everett. You know I can't let you go.
Long looks over his shoulder, just enough to see Everett pointing his pistol at him.
Long. You know I can't let you take me.
His hand slowly slides toward his gun belt. Everett sighs.
Don't try it. I should have said Everett. This is Everett speaking, everybody. Don't try it. I'm already drawn. Not even you're fast enough to beat me like this. Long. Why does everyone keep saying that?
With incredible speed, Long half turns while drawing his pistol and fires a bullet through Everett's chest. Everett looks surprised, as if he had just seen the impossible. He falls over and Long walks up to him. Everett lies on the ground, coughing blood and reaching for something. His gun lies just beyond his grasp, and Long kicks it away. But Everett keeps reaching for something. Long notices Everett's pocket watch and places it in his hand. Everett looks relieved as he opens it. Inside is a broken timepiece and a small photograph of his wife and child in the lid. He admires their faces in his final moments. The glow of the fire engulfing Epitaph dims on his face. Long looks up to see the sky brightening. He collects himself, mounts his horse, and rides fast away from Epitaph. Exterior, Arizona plains, continuous. When he's far enough away, Long slows down and lets the warmth of the sunrise bathe his face. He breathes in deeply, savoring life. Then he allows himself to smile. If he had a harmonica, he would play it. Exterior, desert outskirts, continuous. The area is quiet and veiled in shadow. In the distance, Long can be seen ridden right... Ugh. Let's try that all again. The desert is quiet and veiled in shadow. In the distance, Long can be seen riding away. Suddenly, seemingly with purpose, Everett rises as undead. He sees Long and shuffles forward.
Ah. Yes! Yes, it's over!
I didn't realize it was going to be a marathon for me. Woo!
Well, that's what I was saying. I was like,
I didn't think about
Brian realizes there's a
I did not.
a lot of exposition to read.
It was a lot.
Well, Brian, before we get into the discussion, do you want to plug? Shall we plug away?
I think we could plug at the end.
Okay, that's fine. So, Brian, what are your immediate thoughts?
Immediate thoughts is that it was very fulfilling. You know, it's like, I feel like it's kind of what I had hoped it would be. You know, there was a lot going on with each of the characters, and I feel like everyone got their time, you know, to fight. So it didn't feel unbalanced from that vantage point. It felt like there was a lot of interesting things going on. There were a handful of times, and I think you called out one of them in your blog, but there's another one I'll talk to you about afterwards when we get to it, where I could see like you watching your movie, you know, the way you wrote it.
Yeah.
You're kind of telling them, direct it like this. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's like,
right.
I think it was with Chief, you know, it's like, I really got a good feeling of like how that was happening. You know what I mean? So I felt like I was there, like occupying the space. I could very, very easily see what was going on, with one exception I'll talk to you about.
Okay.
I thought it was very clear. And I mean, it was still a sad way to end it, but you know, I know that's how you've always envisioned it ending. But I don't know, man, I think it was like just seeing the Chief part come out. Something about that was like, oh, it's so cool. You know, it's like, this is just a cool movie moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not where I really expected me to like find the most joy within this, was that part. But I really enjoyed just Chief wailing on it. I like the Zeke and Sally, and the dynamite callback. I like Bao being there, even though he wasn't there for long.
Right.
No pun intended. You know, and I don't know. The whole thing was like, it felt pretty balanced for me. Again, with one exception I'll talk about towards the end. But yeah, I mean, overall, it was very satisfying.
Great.
How about hearing it? Did it make a difference hearing it? Because you actually got to sit there and like listen to most of it, since there's very little dialogue in it.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. You know, hearing it. In fact, I kind of got lost in watching the show. As you could tell, like I forgot. Oh, I have to say the dialogue here.
More than one line for me.
Yeah.
Read to me, Brian.
You know, it is. I don't know that it perfectly captures what I had envisioned. Like, I don't know if that's even possible to perfectly capture what an artist envisions, but it's very close, and I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to explain it. I mean, I do have a concern with, you know, the Zeke and Sally in the fray of monsters, and they're getting eaten. Like, is it believable? Like, you're being clawed at by a bunch of even if it's just like regular people, right? Let's say you're being mobbed. Like, is it believable that you're going to have time to kind of like, you know, signal to the other person you're being beaten up with? You know, like, hey, let's use this dynamite to kill ourselves, right? Like, that's going to have to be directed in a very specific way to make it believable for audiences that they aren't just going to be ripped apart immediately, right?
So just to defend that for 1 second.
Okay.
You had that action though take place with someone who's like just tough. You know, she was hung. You know what I mean? And survived. I mean, this is like it's going to take a superhuman or just so many things to take her down that it's a little bit of movie magic. It's, you know, it's understandable. And if it was, you know, what's his name? Jimmy, I'd be like, what? Oh, no, not me. But but her, I could believe it.
Okay.
You know?
All right.
So I think that was cool.
Yeah. You know, I think, you know, this is something I didn't articulate in the blog, but it is something that's always in the back of my head, and that is, you know, I've written a lot of the pages, a lot of the times that I come to this show every week and I present pages, they are, at least in part, siloed off from the other pages. I know intellectually they're based on the other pages, the previous pages, but because I'm already like pre-editing, when I write the new pages, I think, well, I'll just go back and beef up the previous pages to make this work. And I just keep that in the back of my head. And I know I'm going to go back to it, right? And so I think that's where, you know, why some of the enjoyment for me, like the pure satisfaction of having completed all of this, is a little missing, because I know I still have to go back and add those things so that I know, you know, from like a writer's sixth sense, that it is complete and it is coherent. Right. So, you know, you talk about Sally being tough. Yeah. But I also think I need to beef that up a little more, right? Like,
in a previous section, Everett says, "That's the toughest woman I know or I've seen," right? Where has he seen that? How does he know that? He doesn't know that until I make him know that by rewriting something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's those little things that still have to happen. But look, if it's believable to you, then I'm happy with it. I think it is, I'm taking for granted that movie magic is going to kick in for audiences, and the whole, like, even though Bao is a zombie, they're still going to, like,
lock eyes and
that they're going to sort of embrace him.
Yeah.
Right. Even though it's also like a defensive measure at the same time.
Right.
And it'll all just make sense to audiences, like, okay, yeah, I totally get that. We'll see.
The nice thing about Bao there is it's in the middle of all the action, and you're going to be, if they do it right, they're going to be wrapped up in the action.
Yes.
And just to see Bao there will be a true surprise, even if he was coming. At that point you've kind of forgotten about it because all this other stuff is going on, and then boom, there he is. And it's like, whoa, and it kind of just puts one of those, what's that effect where, like, they zoom in, and they pull out with a dolly.
Oh yeah,
so it gives that weird effect.
Yeah, that
like,
Hitchcock,
oh, no.
that Hitchcock created that.
Right. Like you could see that happening, like, whoa.
Yeah. Right.
That's the sound you make. That's why you named him that, right? Wow. It's called the Bao shot. So real quick, from a writer standpoint, do you actually make those notes somewhere? Or you just got it in here, like, I would go back and do this, and this, so it'll pay off later? Or do you go back, or do you write it down somewhere and say, make sure I beef up Chief and do this?
I just have it in my head. But if you asked me, Renee, list all the things you need to go back and beef up, I couldn't do it. So like I said earlier, it's almost like a sixth sense. And really, practically, in practical terms, what that means is and I don't know if all writers do this. I know for me, after I create something, I used to be a sketch artist, a pencil sketch artist, right?
Yeah.
And I would just always go back and look at my old drawings. Even to this day, I'll go back and I'll look at my old drawings, and I'll have this kind of almost like a synesthesia about it, right?
Yeah.
Where I can remember the time of day while I was writing or drawing it, or what class I was in when I was doodling, or whatever, right? And so translating that to screenplays, I know I'm going to be rereading this over and over again to just experience those iconic scenes that I had envisioned long before, and read it and watch it in my head and just enjoy watching the movie I wrote. Right. So knowing that I'm going to re-experience where things need to be beefed up a little bit as I go through the script again. So there you go. I think I just spoiled the magic by saying, I'm just going to reread it. Don't worry, and I'll just know when I reread it. But that's what I'm going to do.
Well, it'll also spark your memory as you see a certain character. Oh yeah, okay, I did this. Maybe I can do this because I know what's happening at the end now.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It's almost like writing backwards. So one of the things, just another pre-note before we get to the actual notes for these pages. One thing is if you notice the pages I sent you from last week, there's a note on there that says I'll bet you that this scene's going to go away in the big edit. And I think I
haven't read your notes yet, so can you just tell me?
It's the Jebediah. It's a lot of the Jebediah.
Oh, I see. Yeah, we talked about that.
We did, So I'm just kind of rehashing that.
I'm going to keep it just to spite you.
I will exactly. Turning out 121 pages. Deal with it. Just rejected at
right now. No. Exactly.
By that same token, I have a feeling that nothing's going to get cut out of these pages. These are dense pages.
Yeah, it's pretty, and I feel like it's pretty tight. Like, I felt like I condensed some of the hero moments. People had to die spectacularly, and I was able to encapsulate, like, let's say Ray, right?
In a few lines, yeah.
Yeah, in like 4 lines, I get that he's dead and that he also sacrifices himself.
Right.
Good enough.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much more I can tighten here. We'll see.
Not a whole lot. In fact, I'm going to kind of go the other way at one point, which is one of my notes.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to talk about this now because it's on my mind.
Sure.
Okay.
We can jump to it. It's my biggest note on this episode.
All right.
Or, in these pages, which is the. Do you want me to go into it, or did you have a?
Well, let me just say what I wanted to point out.
Sure.
And then you tell them. Maybe it's the same thing. So, we have Sam as this constant threat, I guess, or antagonist throughout the movie, and here we are. We're wrapping him up as well. We see that he's a zombie, and yeah, that is a just reward, or not really a reward necessarily, but a just outcome, a just fate for him, because we don't like him as an audience. But we don't actually see him suffer, right? Like, he's just turned. And so I initially had Long saying something to him, right? As he's like crushing his head, like, you got my friends killed or whatever, right? Like, Long has to grieve for his friends who died in dramatic fashion, right? I mean, that's very traumatic for him. He essentially killed his friends, right? Like, I could see him, exercising those emotions out on zombie Sam, right? So, and then I was gonna hit the audience over the head with, like, Sam is a betrayer, just as Judas was a betrayer, and then we got the silver ore, and Long could be saying something about "here's your silver," but I actually started to write those lines, and I was like, this is kind of hacky. I'm gonna get rid of that. They're just gonna smash his head until that's it. So there we are.
That's funny.
Well, hey, I'm just letting you know, man. These are like the deleted scenes.
And he hit him 30 times. Right.
Exactly. The ore has broken up into coins.
Oh man. Yeah, I know what you're saying about that, and that's part of where I was going to go later, which is sort of to do with, not really as much to do with Sam really though as it is to do with Long, because I feel like Everett. I feel like Everett gets the send off, the real send off, and like emotionally. I know there's a part of you that wants us to like him and grieve when he dies, and there's a part of you that doesn't want us to like Long, even though we kind of do anyway.
Yeah.
He's so good at what he does. He did step up several times when he didn't have to, so he's got a lot of redeeming qualities which we like, but at the end of the day he's a bad guy, and I'm totally cool with that. But by the same token, I felt like Long got a little bit of short shrift here, and Everett got like the he got the send off that I wanted Long to get as well. So I don't know if that takes place with Sam or in an extended goodbye between Everett and Long. I say goodbye, but whatever you want to call that, standoff. Somewhere I want him to kind of like, I feel like he's not raised to that level of just like almost hero or whatever it is. I'm not sure exactly what's missing there, but there's something that I feel like he needs in addition to what he got.
Okay. So
I'm not looking at my notes. I think I wrote something else about it.
Yeah. I you know what I do, Brian? I hear you.
I know you do.
I do. I hear you. So,
had we known, we could have named it that.
What?
Had we known, we could have named the whole show that.
Exactly. So, I toyed with the idea of giving Long more dialogue, and there's a longer exchange. It just, I don't know. After all of that action and the urgency to leave. It felt too much like it's movie time. We're watching a movie, right? These things are happening because it's a movie, not because it's organic. And then I also thought, well, maybe I can take a little more time to describe what's happening emotionally, like Long, describe how Long walks up and looks down at Everett with compassion, just things like that I guess convey to the filmmakers how we want the audience to feel in this moment. But I haven't done that throughout the entire script, right? At least not in an overt fashion, the way I think I would have to do that here.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, and I know this is probably not a satisfactory answer for you, Brian, but I'm hoping that, by this point in the movie, the filmmakers will understand, like, okay, well, they'll get where we need to be emotionally, and they'll fill in the blanks. There you go. That's all I can say. But I am curious, what are your ideas for sending Long off?
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we go through the notes?
Okay.
Because it's kind of towards the end, and I want to kind of get there first, because there's a point where I think it makes sense. Like it feels like there's an abrupt shift for me. Something you sort of mentioned in your blog as well. So I'm guessing you kind of felt it too, but I had written my notes before. I read your blog right before we got on.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm like, oh, okay. I think we're in the same spot here. But why don't I go through this stuff?
All right.
So let's see. All right. So one question I had was just this. Remember, I told you I could easily see myself within the action. And there's only one. I told you there's one issue I had, and it may have been something, quite honestly, that we discussed early on in the show.
Yeah.
Not this show, but months ago. So I wasn't able to reorient myself. But when we talked about the doors, that basically there's this big set piece, right, where the doors are blocked and they've got to open the doors and they're axing at the doors, and then the debris falls through the doors and all this other stuff. And I guess for some reason, and again, you may have laid this out differently early on, but for some reason I always thought they were doors that opened up. Yeah. And now I'm reading them as doors that open down.
Oh, they open up.
They open. I mean, when I say up, I mean out.
Yeah. So think of cellar doors, right? Like a cellar that you have to access from the outside of your house, like on the East Coast, right? Yeah. And they're typically like angled like this. Yeah, sure. And you have to pull them up.
Okay.
Right. So those are the doors that I'm envisioning. Now in might have been episode 2 of this project. I talk about how when Long and Bao go through the passageway, they reach the doors, and there are these handles, these iron handles on the bottom side.
Okay.
And that is where Sam has barred them with his shotgun.
Okay.
He slid the shotgun between the iron handles. Does that help?
Yeah, it totally does. For some reason, I never oriented that they were at an angle. I always thought they were like doors.
Oh, I see.
And I guess I'm like, wait a second, why are people falling through? And why is it I don't understand how this is happening.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did I forget something from early on that we probably talked about? So
that's fine.
That was one thing that kind of threw me. You don't have to correct it, because if that's the case, I just didn't remember. And it might be one of those issues of not reading a script all the way through.
Well, this is a good technical point, though, Brian. So one of the things that I try to do, and I don't know if I picked this up from another screenwriter from another script I read, but it's the reminding to the reader who certain characters are, right? Like I do here, Jimmy and Sarah from The Train.
Right.
Right. Maybe I need to do that for these doors, because
first mention,
they're we don't talk about them for like 100 pages, right? So maybe the reader isn't going to remember.
All right. So maybe if it was me, then I would do it at the top of 126.
Okay.
Remind readers about door orientation. All right, cool.
And while we're talking about these doors, one concern I have, I didn't bother researching it, is oak that difficult to get through? Like, could you shoot your way through oak? Is question one. And I guess question two, similarly, how long does it take to chop through an oak door?
I mean, the way I read it was these are solid, though. These aren't like, just framed. These are solid oak doors, and oak is a strong wood. So,
all right. And that's why I chose it, right? Yeah. I chose it because of The Prince of Thieves with Kevin Costner.
Right.
And they're trying to break through the door to save Maid Marian, and Morgan Freeman's like, "Damned English oak," is what he says, right? And I'm like, okay, I guess it must be strong. I don't know.
Strong as an oak, yeah. It is a strong one. And I think if anything, it would like splinter, but it wouldn't like crack through. So you're not like talking about hickory. It's like or pine. It's a very strong wood.
Okay.
I think you're fine with that.
Well, the other concern I have is, are there other ways to get through a door rather than just chopping through it like this? Like, what about hinges? And I know that this is like ticky-tack. At some point it becomes kind of ticky-tack because you're watching a movie and audiences expect a certain level of willing suspension of disbelief, right? But I as an audience member, who puts myself in these situations as I'm watching, I don't want to get in a situation where someone's in the audience just thinking like, well, just unscrew the hinges or shoot the hinges or something, and it's fine.
It's easy enough to take care of that. Honestly, I mean, not to be, again, too pedantic about it, but they could have these monster hinges on the outside. Okay. So they're not accessible from the inside. I mean, it's easy enough to do that. And the only way through is fire or axe. And fire is going to take a long time to break through that.
All right.
Plus it cause more of a hazard. So I think you're fine.
Okay.
Listen, if anyone's going to hold you to task, it's probably going to be me on this stuff. Like,
sure.
I don't buy it. And I bought this. I don't think that's a problem at all.
All right. Perfect. And here's the last thing. Did they make doors 6 inches thick ever?
They did.
What? They did. Yeah. Okay. There you go. That's a good way to explain it.
It's like the Tron door, No one's getting through that thing.
The Tron door.
Yeah, I remember the door into the facility, and it's like keeps opening. It's like this big rounded, door.
Oh my God, I don't remember this at all. Is this Tron, the original Tron with Jeff Bridges?
Yeah. Yeah, when they go back, or right before, let me think about it. It's when like Bruce Boxlinger and whatever it is, they break in.
Okay.
And this is right before they get, zapped into the electronic world.
Yeah.
So it's like they're do the little code on the outside of the building, and the door starts opening, and then it's kind of a funny scene because the door keeps opening, and they're kind of waiting for it to open, and eventually can get in. One of those deals.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I gotta see it again. But okay, fair enough.
Did you watch my ding ding, by the way?
Your ding ding? No, of course not.
What? I put a YouTube link on there for you, and on our last show, I put a comment there for you.
On our last show?
Yeah.
Wait,
on the YouTube channel, I put a comment that had the link to ding.
That's
ding.
funny. I didn't. Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't get a notification. I don't know if it went to spam or whatever. It's like, I don't visit our channel because, frankly, it just doesn't get a lot of engagement, right? So unless I get like notified through email or something, and for whatever reason, maybe it went to spam, I didn't see that, hey, someone left a comment. So
how funny.
I'll check it out.
Probably from that show. I'm putting it in junk.
Exactly.
All right, let's see. Okay, so question about, this is on 126. So now Everett is back with Long, and they see Zeke and Sally for the first time. Is it my memory, or when they last left, isn't this the first time they're seeing each other since they left as enemies?
Well,
or no?
Not really. They they left. This is after leaving Wells. They left together as like as strange bedfellow allies, right? After leaving Wells Green Bank and seeing like the soldiers have surrounded the town and is burning the town and killing the priest and all that.
Easy for you to say, Wells Green.
Yeah, I know. And they're trying to get to Jimmy's team or Stan's team, and they get broken up because of Plain Jane. So that's the last time that Everett sees him, and he says, "That's the toughest woman I know or I've seen." So there's already kind of like a little bit of like admiration there.
Okay, so it's nothing that I just didn't want them to bump on. Hey, he's back. This guy's back again. Wait, you guys are fine side by side? I couldn't remember. It's part of my problem.
No, it's all good. This guy's back.
at the bottom 126, that
well, before you move on, there's a little bit of, I don't know, we'll call it lazy writing, because I kind of wrote a bit of my personality into the script when Long says fantastic.
Of course.
Long would never, I mean, is that a word that people would say back then?
Bitchin'.
Well, I'm just saying, right? It doesn't sound of the time. So that's something I say, everybody, like when something goes wrong. Instead of saying "damn it," I say the opposite, sarcastically.
He did it again later too when the gun fired blank.
Yeah, of course.
I would make the argument that it absolutely needs to stay just like that.
I'm going to keep it. It just, I'm just saying it felt a little odd for me, but at this point, it's at the end of the movie. I'm going to indulge.
I think it's cool, man.
All right. So, what's your next note?
Just below there, towards the bottom, when Jimmy and Sarah run in, breathless, that whole scene. I like when you can put a little writing in there, man. That was nice. That was well written, that part. Just enjoyed that.
Which part?
The whole action thing about coalescing into the horde.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was into the writhing horde. Yeah, I like that. That reminded me of the pools of light, spilling into. Yeah, that's fun stuff. Okay, so just an English thing here at the bottom of 127.
Okay.
When I read this, of course, I read it kind of like.
Yeah.
Not logically. Sometimes I read it as written, where it says the undead slap and paw at the windows, door, and walls. There's a steady pounding and scratching all around them. Like I read that as all around the undead. Like, wait,
right.
I see.
You're
so
right.
I just joined it and I said the undead slap and paw at the windows, door, and walls, creating a steady pounding rhythm all around them.
Okay.
So it's just I just combined the two to get rid of
that. No, you're absolutely right. It's a changing of the subject. So, that needs to be cleaned up.
Simple. So I'm going to give you my smart ass comments too here on 127. Just below that it says Everett says, "We can do this. Work together." And I wrote, "No blank, Everett."
Yeah.
Like, thanks, Everett. That's really valuable. And then right below that you wrote, "Send them back to hell." And I wrote, "Yeah."
So
I like one character much better than the other.
Here's another behind the scenes. The people speaking these groups of lines were reversed in the first version of this. So it's Long who's basically kind of admonishing his friends, work with this guy that you tried to kill earlier.
Yeah.
Right? Because we need to work as a team. And then I had Everett saying, the badass line, "Send them back to," but I was like, wait a second, that's not something Everett would say, right? Like, where did that come from? So I swapped them.
I am justice.
Yeah, exactly. I think it works better this way.
Totally.
But I also, what's wrong with Everett saying, kind of being the Captain America, like,
it's fine.
Come on, guys. Rah, rah.
It's another reason I had no problem when he died.
Exactly.
Good. Deserve to be shot. Idiot. At least no one's going to lecture me anymore. Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay, so on 128, Chief at the bottom says, "My debt to you is paid." Right?
Right.
So it's nice. It's a good line, actually. I think it's perfect, but I'd forgotten that he was in indentured servitude to this point. So this is one of those places where I would go back earlier at some point when he's with them and remind the audience that, why he's there somehow. What I mean? So in one of those early scenes when they're going through places, maybe he doesn't want to go or something. Maybe there's something that they can hold over him the debt is still not paid. You need to
Dude, I hear you.
I know. Chief, I know you can't really dedicate a lot of time to him, but I'm like, well,
no, it's not so much that. I'll make room for that because that makes sense. It's how do you insert that organically without it sounding like, here's a reminder to the audience
right,
who this guy is and his whole deal with alcohol and all of that, right? Like, maybe
I don't think
do
it's something about the alcohol. I just think maybe it's just their debt, because I think it's a good payoff.
Yeah,
I like the payoff. I just want to make sure that it's earned, and I was just thinking at some point he's going to want to bail, and then they have to tell him, no, you got to come with us, until your debt is paid or something. Not maybe so spot on, but something to urge him along the way as he wants to part ways.
You know what? Maybe we can make Chief, a character that people care about by, maybe Zeke and Sally will tell him earlier. I don't even know when they meet. When did they meet? Because he's with Stan. And they don't meet. Damn it. They don't meet until they're at the bar.
Because
Zeke and Sally break off from Long and Everett when Plain Jane attacks. And then we just assume that they're on their way to the bar separately. So they're Team C by themselves at that point. And Everett and Long don't meet up with Chief until they get to the schoolhouse where, Stan's team, Team B, is fighting for their lives. And then, yeah, right. And that's when everyone's together except for Zeke and Sally. So it's not until until the team meets them at the cellar doors that Chief and Zeke and Sally are in the same room. But it would be nice. Here's what I was thinking. It would be nice if they basically tell Chief, the Zeke and Sally could tell Chief, you know what, save yourself or something to that effect. And basically what I'm getting at is that Zeke or Chief would say, altruistically, like, I owe you, I still owe you, right? I still have a debt to pay, so I'm going to stay with you, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Where can I put that in? I don't know, because these characters aren't together until the very end.
File it away.
Exactly. Ugh.
Chief's got to be there, dude. You can't kill him off. You can't eliminate the character.
Oh, yeah, because it's so cool, right?
Yeah.
At the end, absolutely.
He's like superhuman, man.
Right.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's something to think about in the rewrite.
Sorry, I don't have a solution for you right now on that
know.
one. Might have to, I'm not sure. Yeah. I mean, even if you just do it like 10 or 15 minutes earlier,
sure.
It doesn't have to be like, really early on or something like that, but just to kind of keep people's, keep people's head on it.
I mean, look, I can do something, hacky where when he's at the outpost, someone has a line with, "Hey, you're that Indian who owes Zeke and Sally for wrecking the joint," or something, right? Like, so, right? Like that, I could do that.
But maybe you won't do that.
Okay, but that's the only other time, really, that it would work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the first thought that popped into my head when you brought this up was maybe at 9 Lives, right? It's close enough to the end.
Right.
And it also serves alcohol, so we can kind of tie in something like, he wants to drink, and, maybe Maggie or Ray or someone stops him and says, that's what got you in trouble with Zeke and Sally or something, right? It's still not natural, but
I do like the idea of him saying something, though, rather than someone saying something to him. Yeah. I don't know what that is, but I like the idea of him saying just a little bit more, because he doesn't have a lot of lines.
No, yeah.
So like when he talks, you'll remember it, Unlike Everett, who talks a lot.
Right.
Slap that guy. All right. So at the bottom of 128 is where that cool cinematic moment happens. Or I could see it, Chief smiling wryly before hurling himself into the fray. That's just cool stuff. This is where I got the, that close up, that push in on him.
Yeah.
I could see it all like happening in the movie as I was watching it. That was cool.
I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure about the word choice of aroma, though. Like I said,
why?
I said, Chief inhales the aroma of the battle.
It's no, it's perfect because you could just like see him.
Oh, sure.
Taking it in and doing the whole thing. It's like, how else are you going to explain that?
Is aroma the right word, though? It's like,
yeah.
I thought maybe the scent.
No. Aroma's cool because it's like, it's strong to him, too.
Yeah.
Scent is like something like, you get a little scent. Now, this is like the aroma. It's like he's breathing it in, That's like his life breath. It's filling him. No, dude, that was cool.
All right.
Don't mess with that. That was good stuff. All right. So in 129, this is you said you have to be ticky-tack sometimes.
Yeah.
This is a little bit of a movie ticky-tack thing. I'm assuming when these guys are shooting, they're all shooting with their different guns, and either they're all using the exact same ammo, which is probably not true, or Sarah has an amazing ability to match the ammo to the guns. I know it's something that's never going to come up, because she's just going to be loading this stuff, but it's a good thing that that's not an issue, and she's so good with loading ammo.
Well, we can make it seem like, she's struggling.
Put rifle shots in.
Well, she's struggling at first, trying to put rounds that are too big into a handgun. You know what I mean? And then she's got to find the right things.
No one wants to see that.
Well, I understand. All I'm saying is, if it comes down to it, that's like a 5-second thing, if that. Where she's like struggling and she finds the right bullets, and it just adds, it can ramp up the tension a little bit. And maybe that's why Long's gun is not loaded in time for him. It's going to be a director's choice, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But hey, we got to have these things, these concerns, just in case you get that gun enthusiast in the audience who just starts heckling the movie.
Walks out.
Yeah.
Walks out the 1 hour 55 minute point. Oh, my money back.
Exactly. Zombies, I can believe.
Yoo-hoos, I got that.
Yeah.
Come on now. These are just rounds. I got a 22 and a 35. What are you doing? I guess they're all from the South.
There you go. Default, right?
All right. Let's see. Okay. So 130.
Here we go.
I'm not seeing Long as this physically formidable guy, although he knows how to fight.
Yeah.
Right. So then when I get to the bottom of 130 and it says he fights off Chief with his bare hands.
Yeah.
This is like Super Chief, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I almost wanted him to slip away or slip out of reach or something rather than fighting him off like a badass. It almost seems like, and then when it says it's like he fights him off, but he's relentless. Other guys start shooting him. It doesn't say he ever stops going after Long, but he has to because Long does other things next.
Right.
So I didn't realize until later. I had to go back. Okay, wait a second. So he was distracted me by the shots to the head or something like that. But to be distracted by shots to the head and that not do anything really to him in terms of damage, but Long can fight him away, didn't feel really realistic.
Okay. Well,
I know we want to make Long cool, but it felt like maybe a bit much there.
Well, it's not meant to be a prolonged, he's gonna
scuffle.
He's gonna put up his fist and start doing, karate or kung fu or whatever on him, right? Just enough to dodge the blades, kind of.
Are you reading?
Sorry, I had to. Whenever I get a strange text at weird hours, it's like, is this an emergency? Anyway, it's not meant to be a set piece, this fight scene. More, at least the one-on-one thing. It's more, and maybe I see where you're coming from, so I know how to fix this. And basically, I want it to be that Chief is the biggest threat now so far that requires everyone's attention, and because Long is the focus, at least in this moment. I want him to do something that's interesting. I feel like a lot of action sequences can get visually boring if it's just the same thing over and over again. So, we've had a prolonged fight here where everyone's using their guns and sometimes switching to melee weapons. I think it would be interesting to have this character, start, getting into a fist fight, I guess, with this guy, who has axes. I think that's interesting, but it doesn't have to be very long, right? It doesn't have to be, multiple shots of it, and it's like, like the Matrix, where it's like Agent Smith versus Neo, just 5 seconds of him dodging axes in his face and punching back, and then having everyone else realize, okay, this is a problem, and they start training their guns on Chief, so putting their guns inward now instead of outward. I think that can be interesting. Now, obviously, I'm not conveying that well enough here, and so I don't know what else to say. It's like
I think if he's relentless, and after going, he's relentless in terms of going after all of them. I think that's fine.
Okay.
If it starts with Long, I think that's cool, and he could certainly hold his own for a few seconds against someone. But I think that if you just say that, Chief's attention is attracted to whoever is hitting him or firing at him or whatever you want to say, instead of maybe the group split attention, which is good. I mean, we need that because almost like, where it says the group split attention has allowed more undead to spill inside and into the back corridor. I mean, we need that information though.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know if it can go into the next graph with Everett, but that's not really that good either to do that. But maybe instead of managing flesh wounds, I think it's understood. Maybe that you can. I know I'm trying to help you save words here, but I think if there's a way to, say, pulling his attention or something instead of only managing flesh wounds, just something to draw his attention from being completely on Long, I think makes sense, because Long does go on to do other things at this point.
Yeah. I guess I should say something like, he defends himself with his bare hands. That way, it doesn't sound like he's getting into a prolonged fist fight.
Yeah.
While the others shoot at Chief, but only manage flesh wounds, something to that effect. I think the problem is just that beginning phrase, he fights off Chief with his bare hands, and get rid of the relentless part.
Yeah, that'll definitely help.
Yeah.
Or maybe I like the idea of him being relentless, but Chief is relentless and trains his attention on whomever is attacking him or whoever is nearest or something. I don't know.
Okay. I can get rid of but only manage flesh wounds by saying those with loaded guns shoot at him, drawing his attention.
Yeah.
Okay. Or maybe drawing his attention around the room. That way we can kind of see Chief just flailing around the room like a wild man.
Yeah. It'd be cool. Okay. Another cool part of the scene. So on 131 it says, about a third down, in a killing stroke, Chief slides a blade of a Ray's throat. I mean, it's kind of a killing stroke. It just takes a little bit longer. This is a movie killing stroke, in an almost killing stroke, in a soon-to-be dead stroke.
Well, it's I think people, there is the concept of mortal wounds, right? Where, all right, you're shot in the gut. That's it. Yeah, we can't do anything for you. You're dead.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Did you know, Brian, that in the Civil War, a lot of soldiers, when they were found on the battlefield dead, their clothes looked like they had been rummaged through? And that's because, some people thought, that their bodies had been ransacked, but it's actually the soldiers looking to see where they were shot. And if they were shot in the gut, they knew it was a death sentence. That's why they would look through their clothes to see, like, where am I shot? Wow. That's why their clothes looked untucked and unkempt.
I didn't know that. Were you doing research?
No, this is just I like the Civil War, right? Mainly because I like the letters that the soldiers wrote, and I just love the kind of elevated language of like the officers, and I like the music. It's there's something very romantic about that time period and how that informed the war, informed the pieces of history that we get from it. And so some of this just like got retained in my head. And I did like a History Day project back in high school about the Battle of Gettysburg. And so so a couple of things, stayed with me.
That's great.
Yeah, I guess.
There's that iron trap, man. Okay, so on the bottom of 132, I'm skipping a lot because
that's fine.
Aren't many notes. I thought this was a nice way to cap off the Jebediah Jones thing, to show that from their perspective. I think this is cool. This is very cinematic. This saying, now show it in the room, now show it, from down the street, now show it from way away. And
right.
Like, oh, that's cool. Like you can see that instead of like the multiple angles, it's multiple perspectives of characters that we've seen. So I thought that was clever. Well,
that's the climax, right? The climax is where you have to bring, well, maybe not have to, but typical practice is to bring all of the characters in to this moment. So you'll see a lot of not just this moment, but these events, let's say. So you'll see a lot of movies where even if the characters, like some characters can't all be in the same situation, like they are all like watching it on TV, right? So you feel as an audience like they're there. They're occupying space in your mind as an audience member.
Yeah.
And it's like when I read that as I was teaching myself to be a screenwriter, I was like, you know what? Wow, that makes so much sense. So I always try to work it in somehow.
Yeah. Smart, man. Good job. I like that. We talked about that. All right, so at the top of 133 here.
Oh, wait, one last thing, Brian. I think there was a discussion about can you shoot dynamite? I think you brought that up a couple episodes
ago. A long time ago.
Is it possible to shoot dynamite?
Wasn't it during the flashback?
Well, maybe we talked about that. I'm not sure, but I know specifically when I talked about, I was just kind of like giving you a heads up on how I wanted to kill off Sally and Zeke. It's like, they're going to hold up dynamite. And I think you questioned if you could shoot dynamite. And I thought, I think we had a back and forth about, hey, maybe he shoots the wick and it lights the wick. But I researched it. Apparently, dynamite is volatile to pressure.
Okay.
Like to impact. So there you go. So
you're good to go.
I guess you can. But apparently you cannot shoot TNT. Or, I suppose you could, but it's very resistant to impact. Oh. Just like C4 is resistant to impact. So you need blasting caps for those, apparently. I did research this the other night.
With all this research, man.
It's like research is so easy these days with Google. You type it in and it's like, wow, people have actually searched for this before. So.
A little scary.
I know. All right, Brian. Sorry. Go ahead.
No worries. So the second paragraph in 133, where they drop through together. Motions for Jimmy and Sarah to go through the doors. They drop through together. All right. So maybe I need to reorient myself on this. I thought the doors were above them, and they were going through the doors.
No.
The doors are below them.
Yeah.
The passage is below.
Well, a little bit, yeah.
Okay. So my question was, where it says Long follows then Everett.
Yeah.
Why would Everett go? I know he needs to for all the stuff that's about to happen.
Right.
But is there another reason for him to not have the woman and child go first?
The excuse I would give at a press conference is that he's not sure where they're going. He doesn't know what the danger is, so he wants to face the danger first.
Okay.
And the danger behind them is more or less, subsided for now.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's burning, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's not burning completely inside, just the flames are kind of like licking inside, I don't know, man. I mean, I think it's believable. No, you don't like it?
No, I know you need to have it. I don't know how you don't do that.
I mean, I can throw in a line where he says, let me check it out or something like that, right? Let me make sure it's safe. Or, it also just kind of seems natural that a guy would drop down. It's still within her view, right? It's not like he's like, I'll be back in 5 minutes, right? It's like he just drops down, and it makes sense to like turn around, to help the person. And maybe I can write that Jimmy drops down first and turns around to help Sarah,
Okay. Yeah.
Just
just kind of set that.
Yeah, set the expectation.
Yeah, you can even make it fit, probably, instead of they drop down together.
Yeah.
See, now I'm actually worrying about lines. Before it's like, who cares, man?
Yeah, just write your heart out.
Now it's like, how many syllables do we have? What's the letter count?
Right, pretty much. That's how it is.
Now it matters.
Hey, I'll forego proper punctuation sometimes. I don't need a comma here.
Well, I like the way Sam got beaten up. I thought it was pretty fun. Because he's getting beat by the thing that he wanted so badly.
Exactly.
That's why I thought that was so cool. I felt like it happened fast.
I know. It does.
It does. It's like 4 lines.
Exactly.
But this is one where, you're probably going to get the director's prerogative.
Yeah.
This one's drawn out.
Yeah. Totally.
I don't know what else you write here.
Well,
unless it's going to be dialogue, which there's not going to be dialogue because only one of them talks.
Right.
So it makes sense the way you wrote it, but I was like, oh, he's fat. He's gone. Okay. Well,
he's gone. And we just saw him. He's gone.
You knowing some bitch are gone too.
Yeah. I mean, I could have, the way I envisioned it was like a POV shot where he's, Long is just smashing the thing into his face until like it's now just the silver has replaced his head, right? Sam's head is so impacted now. It's just like this silver ore on the ground above his neck. And just leave it like that.
I mean, if he's not going to do some sort of pithy comment afterwards, then
I'm telling you, all I had was the 30 pieces of silver.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of anything either right now. It's not, it doesn't sound trite.
And that's the thing. It's like I the moviegoer in me wants Long to say something here.
Something, yeah.
Something.
Is there a callback to early on that we can
I was trying to think about it. Like, the only thing that makes sense to me is to say something about the silver. Like, here's the silver you wanted or something. Like something very obvious. But then I think, well, it's obvious. Why is he saying it?
Right. We could bring back, the bank guy, his name. He'd be like, Boone, Boone, mother, Boone, Boone.
Well, okay, so basically, here's what's going to have to happen. If Long is going to say something here, it has to be in reference to something earlier that Sam does. I don't think that exists yet. So as I go through this again, maybe I'll find something to insert for Sam.
I mean, the only thing that kind of came up a couple times was that he was there to save him, right? Just to get him, to save.
Right, saved you again.
Yeah. But I don't know how you play that against this moment. But if there's a way, that would be the thing to bring in.
Oh, maybe I can change that line to something else.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like maybe this could just be something that's subtextual. You know, he's getting the thing he always
wanted
wanted.
You wanted it though. You want to hear him say something.
I know.
We got to give the audience what they want a little bit.
All right, a little bit.
Yeah. Maybe his saying early on could be, well, it's either save you or get a big thing of silver ore. No, it doesn't fit. Okay, yeah, you write it.
We need to massage it a little, I think, Brian.
Oh, silver ore, nothing. Silver ore, my fist. No, replacing ore. All right. I'll think about it in the big right. This is in my trap now, in my sieve.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Wait, what were we gonna do?
Right. Exactly.
All right. Top of 134. This is a little bit worse than the first one.
Okay. Top of 134.
Yeah.
All right.
Our first version of this is that long. Where are you? Just had this long talk. Hold on. How many pages ago was it? He fights off Chief with his bare hands. Okay.
Yeah.
We've already talked about that. Now Maggie manages to fight off Ray.
Well, look, I mean, it doesn't have to be, a fist fight. Basically, she's just pushing him, right? Like she can break his grasp. He's just a zombie now. He's not using human strength.
Mm-hmm.
I can describe it, in more detail. I just, let's just keep it vague. Let the action choreographer decide how she breaks free. I can just say that Maggie breaks free and pushes him to the front room. How's that?
Fantastic.
Okay.
Only because I've got a preconceived notion of what fighting off means.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I know what you're saying.
That makes sense.
And I'm just making some notes. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Okay, so this is another geographical question for you. So if I recalled correctly, Tommy was already by the door. Everett went down, and then Tommy was coming next, right? And then Maggie, got caught up with Ray, right? But I thought Tommy was already by the door, and now Maggie's got Tommy again. So I didn't understand. I'm trying to visualize what this means. Like, how far is the door from where they are now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, is all this happening just kind of like where Everett can see it happening, or is it happening within the room? And just a little bit of confusion as far as Tommy's whereabouts during this whole thing. I went back trying to figure out where Tommy was.
Yeah, well, I'll say that everyone's within, 3 or 4 feet of the door. Once Everett gets in there, and he turns around. Do I have the debris falling? It falls after he turns around.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not going to bother reading this silently to myself while we're recording. But basically, the idea is that Everett goes in. When he turns around and sees Ray, and points Ray out, I need the debris to fall to push Maggie and Tommy away from the doors, basically, out of fear. Like, I think people would naturally jump back if something fell and kind of blocked their path, and it's flaming, right?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay. So at that point, I'll say that they are, we'll say, 6 to 10 feet away from the door because of the debris. Maybe that would have to be shortened depending on how far arms can reach, because I do want them both to kind of struggle to reach each other. So the debris might have to be smaller. I don't know. I mean, I got to look at it physically to really understand, but just conceptually, is it any of this helping you? Is any of this clearing things up for you, Brian?
I think it's fine. I think it's a minor point to me anyway. I just got a little bit lost about where he was because I kind of got the impression that he was by the door and then he ran over to his mom again, and then his mom's with Ray, and so now he's holding Tommy and trying to hand him over to Everett at this point through the debris, and I just got a little bit lost about how that was all happening. I don't think you need to get into a lot of detail because, that's something that the action guys take the script and, map it out are going to do. I was just a little bit unclear about that. Like I had a better idea of where Maggie was, where Ray was, but for some reason I got lost with Tommy.
All right. Well, I mean, I'll take a look at it and see if I was unclear.
Yeah. It's not a big point, to be honest.
Right.
I mean, I know it's not like, I know where you're going with it, which is the more emotional part of it, and I think that comes through fine. Okay. So here at the about a third of the way down in 134, Maggie's desperate eyes lock with Everett's. He cries out helplessly as Maggie and Tommy are snatched away. More flaming debris falls on the doors, knocking Everett back. I think you need to mention something specifically here because the mood in the script and the movie kind of changes at this point, because now we're going outside and things have slowed down, right? But I don't know in reading this that the threat of undead and infected is pretty much contained or over at this point because they're all burning. So I think you need to say either something like, everyone dead and undead is crushed, however you want to say it, but it's a little bit more finite.
Here. I have a line here, like a free line in this 4-block. It's only
3 block,
3 lines. Well, I can add here knocking Everett back and preventing the undead from pursuing them.
Exactly. Because I mean, I got it. I got that that's what happened, but that was just because I figured that's what was probably going to be happening.
Totally.
All right, so now we're outside, and I'm only going to say this because he gave such a speech on the train, and number one. And number two, because there aren't a lot of Asian people around here, from what I gather.
Yeah.
So when Long gives this whole speech to Jimmy, even though before he had on his bandana, right? When he did this the first time.
Right.
Wouldn't he recognize that voice?
Yeah, no, he knows it's Long.
Okay. So I think that I think there should be some sort of reaction to that, even if it's subtle, because, he did save him. He did give the ring back. That's all cool.
Yeah.
And but when it says Jimmy nods thankfully at Long and rides off, I wrote something like Jimmy's face registers recollection as he rides off. Like he's just, he could have been panicking in this heightened level of tension to where he's not really putting it all together necessarily, or not cognitively, but then he gives him the ring, they're taking off. And he's like, he's like understanding who that guy was, that just gave him the ring. I think is a nice little touch rather than just being thankful. I think it's another layer.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think that's going to be, script wise, that's, I feel like that's going to be a lot of words and lines to get that across. It's like is not the proper opening here. What's going through my head is that, Long already revealed his face to them on the train in the beginning.
Oh, we did? Okay.
Yeah. And so I think it would make sense. I mean, if we add something, like maybe it happens in the bar where Jimmy and Long, they look at each other for a little bit, like exchange recognition.
When he first comes in?
Yeah.
From the outside?
Right.
I think that's good. I think just as long as there's something there.
Yeah.
What's he going to do?
That's what I mean. Yeah, exactly.
You can't take him physically, you can't take him with a gun, and the guy's saving their lives.
Here's what I could also do. When Everett is saying, we're on the same side now, he's not just talking to Zeke and Sally, he's also talking to Jimmy, even though he's not really aware of what Long did on the train. Maybe I can throw in a line of dialogue where Jimmy says, you're the Long Fang or whatever,
right.
Something as a callback to the train. And so that's how Everett knows that Jimmy has experience with Long. And so Everett can lecture him as well and say, we're on the same team.
Oh, he didn't kill your wife? Oh, good for you.
Yeah, exactly.
He only kills wives and kids, so hope you don't make kids soon. Yeah, I mean, it's a little thing. I mean,
No, it makes sense.
Grand scale of it.
You know, I love tying everything up nicely.
Yeah,
So
I know.
let's. I'm going to aim for that.
All right, so the big scene between Long and Everett.
Here we go.
Okay, my first note is that these guys, there's been a lot going on between them, and it's a pretty complicated relationship, actually. You know, you've had power shifts, you've had personal losses on both sides that are impacting them both very, very recently. You know, Long just lost 2 friends.
Right.
Everett just lost a potential new family. So he's like reliving that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And all I can say, like from a high level, is that this needs more. Like, I need to see more here between these two, because I've waited. You know, I've gone through this whole movie, right? Yeah. And now it's like, this is the payoff for the reader / viewer. I want to see what's going to happen between these two, because I don't think anyone's going to assume that they're just going to be buddies. You know, maybe best situation, they're going to ride their separate ways. You know, and if they cross paths again, you know, it'll be different. But this time we're going to call bygones, whatever. I don't know. Maybe that's like the optimistic side of it. Yeah. So, but the fact that they're not, and Everett is still holding him to the law and justice and everything, rings true with the character. And I think it makes sense that this is going to happen. I just want to hear more. This is like the one time where I'm always telling you, like, oh, Everett, man, he talks a lot, but this is one where I think there needs to be more exposition. All in the exposition, something they need to connect in. And it looks like right on 135 when Everett says, "I haven't forgotten," and Long says, "I wish you would." I get that they've got a shorthand, like he knows exactly what he means, and it almost felt like he was expecting him to say something, you know, like, here it comes. Yeah. You know, and I got that, but by the same token, that to me felt like the part where it could be broadened out, because everything else that happens afterwards is like kind of has to happen in that order. You can't like add anything after that. You know what I mean? Like that whole part is like, yeah. And they're not going to be talking as one's drawn on the other. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's it. Right. This is the end of the scene. This is the end of the movie. You know, but I felt like something else there is. I honestly felt like this is one of the few times where it was just missing. Like, I need more here. So I hear you. Ding. Here is where this was probably the toughest part of these pages, because of the shift from action to loss to this confrontation. Yeah. Right. And we're doing it very quickly. And some of these characters disappear for a little bit, you know, while Long has to do something else to get rid of a couple of other characters. Right. Yeah. So how do I do that without being too wordy and without too much dialogue? Like, I mean, maybe the too much dialogue isn't a requirement. But I don't know what else there is to say, really, between these two. And what would a reasonable person expect another person who just witnessed, we'll just say that it's his family, who just witnessed his family get murdered. Right. What would we expect him to say in this moment where you have an urgency from an outside force? Your family's just been killed in front of you. You need time to process. I think it's already a stretch that he is having this exchange with Long. You know, I haven't forgotten. It's like, how can you think about that right now? Right? Like, that's where my head went. Exactly what you just said. Just grieve. Exactly what you just said. Okay. Like it went to, oh, you've got to be kidding me. All right. After what we just experienced, after what we just went through, after the loss on both sides, and you kind of touched on it here, but like I think the Long might be, I know he's cool, but I think he might be kind of pissed at him saying, like, get some perspective, man. You know, what's it going to take? You know, and I don't know exactly how to necessarily portray that, but it feels like, you know, there's some emotion missing here.
Okay.
You know, it's like,
okay. I mean, I could throw an anger. That's fine. I could do that. But does that ring true to the grief? I mean, maybe it could. Maybe it could be, this is how he expresses his grief. Mm-hmm. Right? And working with what's already here, I could turn Long's exchange or his retort, instead of sighing, into incredulity. Mm-hmm. Would that work?
Yeah, I think so. I just feel like the way they did this, the way that it's written here, it feels like these are two broken men, right? Exhausted men who are just kind of like, they've gone through the ringer and now they have to do this. And it felt like they had to do it because they had to do it, not because, earlier Everett is very much literally on his high horse, kind of talking down about this is the way we need to do it. This is frontier justice, whatever. This is justice.
Yeah.
And I felt like that's gone here. So it didn't feel, it's almost like I'm expected to do this, so I got to do it. You know what I mean? Not I want to do it. It didn't even feel like, I've lost two, 1.5 families now, potential family and my own family. And it was just, I have to do what I have to do. I'm the law. And it just didn't feel, how do I say this? It didn't feel like complex enough. Like, these guys are fighting with a lot of different emotions at this point. And I didn't feel it in the scene necessarily. Emotionally.
Okay. So I'm thinking as you're speaking, you saw Pulp Fiction, right? Mm-hmm. So after Bruce Willis's character saves Ving Rhames' character from the rapists, he asks Ving Rhames, what about us, essentially? Mm-hmm. Right? And Ving Rhames, after experiencing what he experienced, basically says, we're cool, just don't ever show up in town ever again. Right? And to me, that was believable, right? I accepted it.
Yeah.
Perhaps we could do something here as well, where, Long says, sun is rising and soldiers will find us. What about us, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And maybe that would be a more natural segue into this exchange about, I haven't forgotten. If Long is, bringing up the subject of, hey, are we cool? And then they can have a prolonged discussion. Like, I can flesh this out a little more about I haven't forgotten.
Yeah.
Long saying, we've been through a life-changing event. We're different people now. None of this is really ringing true yet, but I think if I work through it, it can.
I mean, there's got to be merit to what he's done, though.
Who's done?
Long has done. There's got to be some merit there. He fought side by side with him, and it was optional. You know what I mean? This is a guy who is, in Everett's eyes, even though there's been some stuff he's done that's been horrific, he has some sort of redemption there that is not being acknowledged. It's not enough, it's I don't know, it's it'll never be enough. Something there. There's
I like that.
No, I don't know, but
no, that's not bad. I'll file that away. Okay. Especially if that's a response to Long saying, "Isn't that enough?" And then Everett can say, "It'll never be enough."
Right.
But then, why would Long have his back to Everett? Like, I like that. I like, how it's like so impossible for Long to outdraw him by having his back to him as well. I'd hate to lose that.
No, I do too. And I mean, I think that it could be, they could be arguing about, what's going to happen next, and Long could just be like, enough, and actually just leaving. Like, he's not going to draw on me. He's not going to fire on me because of what I just did. Everything I just did to help people that I didn't have to help. He's not going to fire on me. That could be at least the the underlying sentiment there. And then when he hears the click, it's like, you got to be kidding me, And in the end of what happens, I mean, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
The last line is perfect. That's like that's the way you want. That's the last thing you want to hear from Long. That's cool. I'm just wondering, and hopefully you can answer this honestly. I'm just wondering if you were getting hit by the red pages up there and forced yourself short here a little bit.
I mean, it was a combination of things. I think that played
Red
into
pages.
it. I did recognize that this was a pivotal moment. This is how we're leaving the audience.
Yeah.
And we're resolving the biggest relationship in the movie. So at this point, while that was a consideration, the page count was a consideration. I think the bigger pressure was the finish line. Like, I'm here.
You're there.
I'm here. Just wrap it up.
Sprint.
Stop thinking about it.
I mean, I think I've said enough about it. I think where my head is on.
All right,
on
I
this.
can. I think a couple more lines and massaging of this can fix it up. It won't be. Let me see here. 136. All right. Well, if we count 136 as an entire page, I mean, that gives me a lot of room to work with.
Absolutely.
So.
Okay. All right. So 2 questions on 136. I bumped a little bit on when he allowed himself to smile. Just because of what just happened minutes earlier with Zeke, Sally, and Bao. That's the only reason that I'm like, oh boy, that's hard. That's hard to reconcile those 2 things. He got away, yeah, but at what cost? And oh man, that is harsh. You know what I mean? And I know he's smiling because he's free and he somehow escaped. So I get that, but it was tough. It was tough just because of that emotional weight that's on him as well.
Yeah. Okay. I hear you. And that, that reminds me of how I felt watching. Did you see the movie Van Helsing with
Hugh Jackman?
Hugh Jackman and I'm Kate Beckinsale.
You look terrible. I wouldn't watch that.
It's it's corn. I think it's based on either a video game or a book, or maybe a comic book, to be honest.
I think it's a book.
Okay. And so, it's meant to be this superhero-ish kind of, presentation.
Yeah.
And so, I can get behind it in that sense. But anyway, you're never going to watch it, right?
No.
Okay.
Spoiler alert.
Exactly. Ding. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. So, gosh, the movie viewer in me doesn't want to spoil it. So let me just keep it very vague. Very vague. An important character dies.
What?
In like the climax of this movie.
All right.
And, this person's face, after everything is resolved, Van Helsing is like standing there at the ocean front, like he's on the beach or a dock or something. And this person's face is like shown in the clouds, right? And, she's like, oh, sorry, damn it. She, who looks like Kate Beckinsale, by the way.
Other than Kate Beckinsale.
Yeah. She's like smiling in the clouds, right?
Yeah.
And I when I saw that, I'm watching this and I'm thinking, it's okay that I'm dead. I'm like, how are you going to show us that after she died horrifically in the final battle? It's like, I don't feel that way. It's like, we're supposed to be okay with her being dead now. So, I don't know, man. I'm hoping it, through the actor and through, this kind of denouement of baguette of the deflation of the tension and all of that.
Yeah.
That he can kind of represent how the audience is feeling, that he's now safe. He's the only one we're watching being safe, it's like a certain relief, and maybe that will give the audience permission to feel the relief as well if we see the character is relieved. But what you said has total merit, though. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't want to smile either after
Right.
reliving the death of my brother and my close friends who I had to kill, essentially.
Right.
And then I just killed this other guy a few seconds ago,
Right.
you know, who I was trying to make peace with. And it's like,
Giddy up.
I'm alive.
Sucks to be them.
Yeah.
Okay, so so the embracing more of the anti-hero that that you've kind of tried to instill in Long.
Yeah.
I was thinking like replacing that with, showing him patting his silver ore they went back and took, because he's a thief. At the end of the day, he's a thief. He's got a horse. He can go make a life for himself. That's cool. Why not go back and get the ore? It's there.
Wow. That is an ingenious idea. I love it. And I love it not only because it works here, but it works for the sequel, Brian. It works for the sequel because he's fighting werewolves in the sequel.
There you go.
So,
That's my gift to you on our last.
That's great. Okay. All right.
Oh, you're funny.
All right. How about this? I write something where, the seriousness on his face. I don't know yet, but basically shows him contemplating recent events. Mm-hmm. And then when he pats the silver in his saddlebag, he allows himself to smile or smirk. Right. How about a smirk?
Smirk's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the Han Solo thing.
There you go.
He's the coolest of them all, right?
There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So last question on the end, one of the last couple lines here. Whenever it rises as undead, he's not infected, right?
He's dead.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, other than that, it was, very satisfying. Like I said, these pages. I know we talked about a lot of different things, but these are pretty important, and most of those things we talked about are not that big of a deal, to be honest, or easily corrected. You know what I mean?
I can work on those.
Yeah, totally. But the big ones, I think we got some good options, man. I think it's good. Well done.
Yeah, no, I feel good. I feel like, as I said earlier, I feel like these pages more or less represented what I had in mind, and I've had in mind for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm impressed that, given our workflow for this project, I'm impressed at how a lot of things were able to be tied up here. It's always difficult, to plan these moments way ahead and expect that you're going to actually be able to tie up all the loose ends here at the end. And I really feel like I paid off a lot of these characters. I know they still need a little more foundation early on, but their deaths were all meaningful to me, and I think audiences will appreciate them as well.
Totally. Yeah. No, good job, man. You should be happy about this.
I'm intellectually happy, but I don't know that I'm emotionally happy. I think that's because I'm dead inside.
Either that or because you have 15 and a half pages to cut.
There's that too.
Well, I think it's going to come out, of the middle anyway, somewhere. Maybe a little bit in the beginning. I'm not sure. But, yeah. So should we talk a little bit about what happens next?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
Sounds like you already have something in mind. So.
No, I'm just curious. Because we're not going to be having a show next week.
Right. It's going to be potentially a solo show, or I'm going to be able to whip something up.
Nice.
And get a guest. We'll see.
Sweet. Well, I will be traveling, so I will not be available. So the next time we talk about the script is going to be in 2 weeks. And when we talk about it then, it'll be, I guess you're going to have to go back. What is your thought? Are you going to leave it as is and just send me all 136?
So that's a question for you, Brian. I am happy to get it down to one. Well, see, that's the thing. I know you wanted to be part of the compression process.
Whatever works best for you.
Well, what do you want, Brian? Here's the thing. I am prepared to spend the next 2 weeks compressing.
I would say that I'm going to need at least a week to read through it several times. So I don't know how much you can get done within a week and prepare for a guest. So I would say if you plan on skipping a week next week and you want to do a little bit of editing or a little bit of, I know you wanted to go back and add some different things, maybe change a couple of things up, then fine. But if you want to have a guest on, I would say we just give me the 136 and we hit it together on the big show. Because I think the next show is going to be our big show where we have a lot of stuff to talk about. Well,
how is that going to work, Brian? Let's say I don't edit anything.
Yeah.
And we just talk about the 136.
Yeah.
I'm going to have ideas on what to cut, and then you're going to have ideas on what to cut, and then we're just going to talk about our ideas on what to cut.
Yeah, I think that's the only way to do it. Okay. Otherwise, like I said, if you want to take a week, and do a little bit of a polish, and get down to 130 or something.
Yeah, conceptually, this idea sounds good, but
which one?
You have ideas on what to cut, I have ideas on what to cut.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of like talk about what to cut.
Yeah.
We haven't written the script together like this, though, is my concern. Like, I'm not sure how that's going to work out.
What would you be? I'm okay however you want to do it. I'm just throwing out my thoughts.
Okay. Well, let me just throw this out then.
Yeah.
What if I spend the next 2 weeks? Well, you're going to need another week on top of that to review 120 pages.
Yeah.
All right. So what if I spend a week chopping it down to 120, and then give it to you, and then you spend a week telling me like, oh, okay, I don't like or I do like your cuts.
Totally, yeah. Like I said, whatever works best for you. Or if you get to 120-ish, and you're almost there. However you, I wouldn't kill yourself to get to 120. If you get down to 123 or 4, big deal. We kind of slice a little bit here and there as needed. But,
all right.
Whatever you feel most comfortable with. I just feel like getting from 136 to 120 is going to be. It's going to take you a little while to do. There's a lot to that. It's not like you're just going to cut out a scene,
Yeah. Well, let me tell you what my process is going to be.
Okay.
It's going to be, I'm going to read the whole script from beginning to end. And as I read, where I see I can tighten things up or rewrite certain description, I'll do that along the way. And that will effectively start tightening up. And a lot of these pages, well, they're just naturally going to shrink as lines disappear, but shrink dramatically because of the way screenwriting or screenplay format is.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't want to have a slug line by itself on the bottom of a page. It always wants to move it down. So now you have like this inch of white space, you know what I mean, on the previous page.
Right.
So I'm going to discover those along the way. So I think it'll probably naturally tighten up maybe 5 pages just from that one read through.
Okay.
And then the next time I go through it, it's going to be, can this entire scene go?
Yeah.
So there we are. Now, you had expressed earlier in a previous episode that you wanted to experience the script before I really took an axe to it. Is that still a desire? Like, do you want me to basically point out like these are the big changes so that you can compare with what you've read to the 120 and say, you know what, I wish this stayed in, that kind of thing?
How about this? I think because you're doing the heavy lifting on this, that I need to defer to what would work best for you, number one. And number two is if I don't miss it, and I don't remember it, then that probably means it wasn't as big of a deal as I thought of during that week.
All right.
So let's go ahead and have you chop over the next week to your heart's content, and you're
All
happy
right.
with it. And then, if you get it to me by Friday, I think, yeah, that'd be perfect. That way, when I'm traveling, I can actually give it, quite a bit of time.
Okay.
Not even
Has
Thursday.
to be Friday.
Yeah.
I can't give it to you over. I mean, it's email, right? I can't just like email it to you on Saturday or Sunday.
I'm traveling most of Saturday. I'll be in a plane, so that's like a great time for me to
see.
focus.
I
so
see.
if you get any time on Friday, usually it's Thursday, man.
Oh, no, I get it. It's just that's fine. All right. That's a lot of close reading. That's like an entire week, more than. Awesome. That's great. Okay. We'll make it happen.
All right. Well, let me know if you have second thoughts on the if it's something that's even possible.
I think it's doable. It's fine.
If you get sick, it's going to be like, hey, no, see you in April.
No. I can make it happen. I will probably ask you for I think there are some notes that you haven't given me in
Really?
recent episodes. I may need to get those because I haven't been going back and making those changes to those pages. Maybe you're caught up. Maybe I'm the one who's wrong about this, but we'll talk about it after the show.
Okay, cool. No worries.
All right. Any other thoughts on this episode, these pages, Brian?
No, man. Good job. Nicely done. I think you're getting to see that this is going to stick pretty much as is, with a little bit of addition, because this is already really tight. I think.
Yeah, it's pretty tight.
It is. I can feel like just thinking back places where I would probably tighten up already, but it wouldn't be here.
Okay. Well, great.
So good job.
Just to emote one last time, it is a fantastic experience to actually put together an entire screenplay. It's like, kind of like, well, I can't know for certain, but I can imagine that it's similar to giving birth. You are living with something and you're growing it for an extended period, and you have hopes for it and how it's going to turn out, and then suddenly it's here. It's in you've brought it into the world. And there's a certain amount of joy to that. So I do feel that. It's just a little different from my previous experiences. And maybe that has to do with, this is like my third child, if you will. And you don't care about the third child anymore. If it falls and scrapes its knee, it's like, get up, you'll be fine. The other two are fine.
Or just have a fourth.
Just have a fourth. Exactly.
That's funny, man. I bet there's something to what you're saying. Like for all screenwriters, there's got to be.
Yeah.
Ah, good point. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's pretty much it. But yeah, it's amazing. It is amazing to be here. I don't know what else to say beyond that. So
I had full faith that we'd get here.
Well, yeah, it's like a foregone conclusion, but until you're actually there, it's like it's just a concept, right?
Yeah.
So
I know.
Okay, here's
the
addition.
Okay.
Not only are we here, but we're here with a pretty decent product. Anyone can just write a screenplay.
Yeah.
Right? But we have a product that's, in my opinion, pretty good.
Yeah.
So there we are.
Well, I think if you recall in the first episode, I said I don't like westerns, don't really like zombie movies. So if you can please me, then I think you've done you've pulled something really, really impressive. And I feel like this is a movie I would want to watch. You know what I mean? At this point. Now, who knows? After you cut 15 pages, I may hate it. But
Right. Exactly.
Where's Bao?
Yeah.
No more Bao.
The relationship between Everett and Long is all just crap now.
No flashbacks.
Yeah.
No nothing.
They just don't like each other, okay?
Exactly. He's a racist.
Yeah.
Hashtag right. Long too. Anyway.
Well, let's, before we wrap up here, Brian, let me just plug everything.
All right. Plug it.
plug. Okay, so this is our website, let'swritethismovie.com. Thank you, everybody who has stayed with us and read pages along the way. For those who are new to the project, you can go to our website, let'swritethismovie.com, and click any of these blog posts where I put up new pages every week and solicit your feedback on the pages so that we can discuss them on these discussion episodes every weekend. We are also on Twitter. Our handle is @WriteThisMovie, and I will post the links to the blog posts here. And any writer questions that I have, I did put a question here about, is it ever okay to kill children in a movie graphically? Didn't get any response to that, and maybe we're better off not knowing what the world thinks. What's that, Brian?
You probably got flagged.
Yeah, exactly. Killing children. Double fisting. But yes, if you want to keep up with the project, this is another place that you can do so, @WriteThisMovie. Okay. Funny. So that is it, Brian. That was
I was religious. Like I went to Twitter like every day this week. Nothing there. Come on, René, feed me something.
Oh, as far as the pages go?
Yeah, I was like,
you wanted to know? Yeah. Well,
yeah,
hey,
I wanted to text you several times. Like, I gotta leave him alone. Just gotta leave him alone. I'm excited.
That's the thing, man. I gotta work. Let me work. It's hard to like do everything. All right. Well, that's it for me. Brian, anything else?
That's it, man. Can't wait for next time. It's gonna be a totally different experience. Going through the whole thing. Woo!
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely. If you thought this episode was long, the next episode's going to be pretty long too.
Yeah.
So please give us a subscribe and a like if you are enjoying these episodes and this project. And yes, ring the bell for notification.
Ding, ding.
They
It sounds worse every week.
You say, exactly. This is like a drunk mongoloid, Anyway, we will see you in the next episode.
Later. Peace.
You got me.